All right, what's going on, guys? Back from Chicago. I was traveling the last couple of days. I pussed out. I couldn't deal with the pro-terrorist protests that were going on up there. I'm just kidding. Strong sarcasm. I pussed out in a couple of different ways. I actually got a pussycat hat. Pretty cool. But I'm back here in North Carolina on vacation. Got a bunch of family here out of town, so that's why I didn't change my flight to see if I could go to some of these protests and get a little bit of footage. But while most people are going to be covering the DNC, the giant circle jerk, where everybody is, talking about how great the Democrats are, I thought it would be more appropriate to talk about what's going on outside of the DNC. And so we've got a couple of interviews we want to look at, a couple of speeches we want to take a look at, and then I'll discuss. Please like and subscribe to the videos. I noticed actually I took a couple of days off and the subscriber count jumped, so maybe I should take a break more often, but really helps me out to grow the channel. My goal is to hit 100 before the election. My reach goal would be 500, but help me get there. We build it one at a time. Like and subscribe, share it with somebody else. By the way, all of this footage is from Status Coup. If you guys haven't ever checked that out, definitely check out Jordan's channel. It's Jordan Sheridan. I started following him back in like 2016 when he was covering Dakota Access Pipeline. He does really good work. All of it is on the ground reporting, so he gets out and covers the stories that the mainstream media is mostly ignoring. Credit to Status Coup. We're going to take a look at his film and then we'll react a little bit.
You are helping us assert our democracy again, our democracy that is on life support. I want to focus my remarks on the myth, which is really a propaganda, that you're throwing your vote away by voting against genocide, mainly because you're voting for an underdog. So there is this propaganda, this extortion of your vote, that it would be a waste of your vote to vote against genocide. And I want to speak to that. First of all, genocide is the moral imperative of our time. 200,000 people who have been slaughtered on our phone screens, on our computer screens, 2 million being bombed, denied food, water, shelter, sanitation, medical care, hospitals, schools, universities destroyed, journalists murdered. Over 1,000 children have had leg amputations without anesthesia. That is a symbol of the brutality and the cruelty of this genocide. If you vote for genocide, you are consenting to it and you are enabling it. Don't let them talk you into it. Don't let them talk you out of your humanity. That, above all, is why we must hold our elected officials accountable and vote to end genocide. Otherwise, you are part of that genocide.
Okay, so here Jill Stein is absolutely correct. Jill Stein is the presidential candidate for the Green Party, also known as the favorite Democratic boogeyman of 2016. She's obviously the reason why Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump. It had nothing to do with the fact that Hillary Clinton was a deeply unpopular candidate that ran on a message of identity politics and largely the status quo is great and Donald Trump is bad. But unfortunately, in the reality that we live in, we have a two-party system. And the two-party system has basically made it impossible for the Greens or any other independent to make a serious run at president. So it's mostly a campaign of just getting the message out there and trying to push the Democratic Party towards the correct position, because that's largely what is going on right now in Chicago. They're not going to be able to get Jill Stein over the line. Much as that upsets me, we have first past the post. We don't have ranked choice voting. But on the message of we have to move the Democrats, we have to move them towards this position, that is what we should be doing. And this is the pressure campaign that should be happening. Now, you'll remember that a little while ago, I did a video talking about how Kamala sort of wagged her finger at protesters at one of her rally speeches, and she basically told them, yeah, keep chanting like that if you want Trump to win, which is very Clinton-esque. And what they're trying to do is get you to the correct position so that you can attract more voters So she's changed her language on it. I'm not holding my breath, because until we actually see a policy change, it doesn't really matter what they say. It's what you do. So she's been a part of an administration that is not only complicit in the genocide, but is also aiding and abetting it by sending money and weapons to Israel. But if she does get in and she does change, then we can talk about that when that time comes. You shouldn't vote for Kamala at the end of the day, because, you know, like, I'm not going to tell anybody who to vote for. Strategically speaking, you've got two viable candidates for president, and the one who's going to be more likely to be moved by voters is the Democrats. I think that the messaging of just turn off your brain and vote for Democrats because Trump is bad is incorrect. I mean, that's the Republicans' job, is to turn off your brain and just vote. But if you want to get policy done, the way that you do it is through mass movements. You still need to extract concessions in order for the politician to get your vote, okay? They are not owed your vote, okay? And you can't get, like, mad at voters for not voting for you if you give them nothing to vote for. We're going to take a look at a couple other ones, and then I'm going to react there as well.
Anti-War Action Network is so proud to be marching here on the DNC today, shoulder to shoulder with all of you. We brought folks here today from Minneapolis, from Milwaukee, Detroit, Grand Rapids, Chicago, Dallas, Denver, Jacksonville, Portland, New Orleans, and Tucson, all to be part of this critically important national protest. And the Democratic Party, when they ousted Genocide Joe, they thought we wouldn't be here today. They hoped we wouldn't be here today. And well, his ouster was a victory that I think we should claim. It is not enough. We want an end to the genocide, not just new leadership of a genocide. We need to end weapon sales to Israel, and we are not going to get it if we just line up behind Kamala. We will only get what we demand if we keep demanding it, if we refuse to be silent during a genocide. We should not have to choose whose lives we value in an election. And taking a stand against genocide should not be treated like a fringe issue, and we are going to make sure it is not treated like a fringe issue.
Okay, so again, this guy talking about what I was saying is that you have to actually extract concessions from the party. You have to get them to move in the direction that you want in order for them to gain your support, gain your vote, the voters, I mean. And so what he's talking about is actually pretty impressive. He's gotten people from all over the United States to come to Chicago to make these demands. And the one line that he said in there, which it kind of reminds me of that song by The Who, "We Won't Get Fooled Again," is meet the new boss, same as the old boss. We don't want a new leader presiding over a genocide. We want new leadership that's going to change direction on it. I highly doubt you'll see this on CNN, MSNBC, definitely not Fox. They're not going to cover these guys who are out there saying, we want an end to the war. They're going to smear them, and they're going to say that they're all pro-terrorist, they're pro-Hamas. It does seem that Kamala Harris has shifted her messaging on this. It's just a matter of whether you do it or not. So at the end of the day, like, I'm not holding my breath, but it does matter what you do, not what you say. Every person is going to say certain things to get elected, and then they'll get probably, like, if they're lucky, a tenth of what they campaigned on done. And so if we can get just this one thing done, it would be a huge accomplishment. Let's take a look at a couple of interviews. Got one from a Jewish American and then one from a Palestinian woman here in just a second. We'll take a look at the guy who's the Jewish American first.
And listen, I'm one of many Jews in these streets, and I used to be a liberal Jew, and then I did my work. I did my homework. I used to say there's atrocities on both sides, and in 2014, I started looking at the math, and I saw 1,500 civilians killed who are Palestinian versus 6 who are Israeli, and that was the beginning of my personal awakening, a Jewish awakening that I see many people have been having the last 10 months. And what that means is if you're over 25 years old and you are Jewish, it's a 99% chance you've been lied to, like I was lied to. I ain't calling my parents liars. I'm saying they were lied to. And I thought that Jews descended on desert land and had kibbutzes and built something beautiful on desert land. I know it's a Nakba now. And now we have a Nakba 75 years later, and we have to be real about it. And if you're like me and you were indoctrinated and you have an awakening, then it is our job as Jews to call that out, because you've probably seen a lot of these shirts that say not in our name. And that's my personal feeling, not in my name. I was raised on Holocaust movies, and I'm damn sure not going to see another Holocaust at a smaller scale in my name. So Jews should be the first one out, and we have thousands of Jews in these streets, and just because we ain't on CNN doesn't mean we're not out here. So don't let them lie to you and tell you anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. That's garbage.
I got nothing to add to that.
What it is.
All right, so that guy, really awesome little bit there, super important. He's saying that, you know, the propaganda is real. What they feed people is real. And if you're misinformed, you know, that's not your fault. But we are in a day and age where, like, everybody has a pocket computer. Anybody can look this stuff up. And there's video footage all over the place of what's actually happening right now in Gaza. And there is no, like, oh, there's violence on both sides kind of deal anymore. Like, the response from Israel has been so far and beyond what would have been reasonable to respond to October 7th. It's ridiculous. And so what he's saying is, like, yeah, the first people who need to be coming out and speaking out against this genocide are Jewish people. We need to be outspoken about, like, we don't support this, which is why everybody is there at the DNC, because the party in power currently does support this. Even if Kamala may not, and hopefully she'll change direction, Joe is very much in support of this genocide, even though he says he isn't. Because if he wasn't, then he would stop sending endless money and weapons to Netanyahu. And make no mistake, like, on the conservative end of these numbers, it's like 40,000 people have been killed. Tens of thousands of these people who have been killed are innocent civilians, including children and women, who have nothing to do with Hamas. And so this guy, really great little bit where he's saying, like, just because the MSM, the mainstream media, is not covering this doesn't mean we're not out here. And just because you're anti-Zionist doesn't mean you're anti-Semitic. Super important, especially coming from a Jewish person. Last one, let's take a look at. This is a Palestinian woman.
We're talking with a gal now that has an abandoned Harris 24 sign. I know we were at the press conference for this earlier today. Oh, right on. So what are your, absolutely. What are your thoughts on all this?
We don't see that change comes with Harris or in November. I think we're looking to the long term, how we can change the system from the power from the politician to the power to the people. I think that's the main thing.
So it's mainly a systemic problem, right? No matter which party is in charge, this issue can't be touched at all. Kamala Harris has been saying things like, you know, I hear you anti-war folks, I'm not ignoring you. Do you feel like that's just lip service?
Yep.
Other question would be, there's a big contingent of people that want to say, yes, it's a lesser evil, it's always a lesser evil, but what choice do we have? Trump would be worse. How do we break that cycle?
Actually, we are breaking the cycle right now. That's the movement. I mean, have you ever, the movement in America, for years, the American people got so comfortable that they want to just, which one, the less evil I'm going to choose. No, today we're saying we are not accepting that. Listen, I come from Jerusalem. I was born, raised there. In Jerusalem, Palestinian, Christian, and Muslim are not allowed to be citizens, only Jews. So I did not have the privilege to have equal education or health care or even vote.
Do you have family that's still there in the West Bank?
All my family.
How are they?
Actually, they are worried, but at the same time, they are optimistic. They are very happy to see all the movement, all the world, the changing coming. yes, there are a lot of fear because the settlement, unfortunately, they go break to your house, they steal everything, even shoot you. They arm them right now. Have you heard about the doctor that got married recently in Gaza? She was very excited. She's going to have a twin. She even posted that on Facebook. The Israeli terrorist forces decide we're going to bomb her house only. Only her apartment was bombed after she had her baby 4 days. The dad went to get some certification, the birth certification. He came back, found all his family dead, his wife, his twin, and the mother-in-law. All of them are dead. Only in Gaza, the birth and the death certification, you get them at the same time.
This was in Gaza, not the West Bank?
This is like 1 week ago. Just 1 week ago. That's what occupation looked like. Segregation, rapist, starvation, bombing house. There is no safety, whether in Palestine, in West Bank or Gaza for the Palestinian. So my message is that we need to end sending weapons, not just for Israel, but to other countries. We should stop colonize other countries by sending weapons. We need to end the military machine that profiting our politicians so they can get more richer. And you know what actually always comes to my mind is how come the Christian in here are not supporting their Christian brother and sister in Palestine? They just bombed the church, the oldest church in Gaza. How you're not supporting them?
You know, there was a group of Christians, street preachers here earlier today, and I asked one of that. You do realize that a big chunk of Palestinian population is actually Christian historically and still are. What about them? And he said, I don't want to talk to you.
Of course, truth hurts, you know. Fact sometimes comes as an attack to them. Jesus is not white, he's not blue eyes, he's from Bethlehem. Yes. Because actually the church also, unfortunately, controlled by Zionists, where the preach will be limited to what they say and afraid to be called anti-Semitic, which is we Arab, we are Semitic. But you know what? I think what happened is that's why I'm very optimistic and there is a hope because we are not depending anymore. The American people are not depending anymore on just Fox News and certain. Now we have a social media that we the people represent what's really reflect on the people that we don't want genocide. We don't want arm Israel. The propaganda, unfortunately, that controlled by the same people, they are benefiting from the genocide. Unfortunately, it's still affecting, I would say, the old folks, but not the younger. And that's why they are afraid. They even afraid they're going to lose control.
All right, so really great points made by this woman here. She's like, we really should stop not just with what's happening in Gaza, but all over the world. Half of our discretionary budget goes towards the military. Eisenhower was the one who said it best about 70 years ago or whenever that was, is he said, beware the military industrial complex. Because there are people that make a lot of money off of perpetual war. And that's why this happens, is because it's good for business for Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, these military contractors that make millions and millions and billions of dollars off of us being at war all the time. But I also love the point that she made about, like, where are the Christians on this? Because ironically enough, there are a bunch of people on the Republican side defending Israel, defending the Jews, and it's, if you're really wanting to defend Jewish people, you need to be like the guy that we just saw, where he's saying, like, I don't want this, not in my name. And they also talk about, like, you know, the population. She talks about the population of Palestine that is actually Christian. And what usually gets buried when they're all rah, Israel has a right to defend itself, is that a lot of these places that are being bombed are actually churches. And so it's extremely disconnected for these Christian leaders to not be outspoken in, we have to end the war, we have to end the genocide, we have to stop sending money to Israel because it's perpetuating this violence that is actually ultimately killing Christians. So like I said, I thought it would be important to show the other side of what's happening in Chicago right now. Obviously, the DNC is going on. Everybody in there is celebrating and having a good time. They want to prop up the Democratic Party. But we need to keep our eye on the ball. We need to keep our eye on the issue that is the most important, I think. It's not just about stopping Trump. Because if nothing changes, then there's no real point in it. And I can't remember who it was. I remember Chris Hedges was the one who said it originally. I can't remember who the quote comes from, though. They said, if voting was that effective, it would be illegal. And so, yes, vote, make sure that Trump doesn't get reelected, but also bear in mind that you have to continue the pressure on the Democratic Party if you want any real change to happen. Otherwise, you're just changing whoever is managing empire. Anyway, really appreciate you guys tuning in. Guys, please like and subscribe to the videos. I noticed actually I took a couple of days off and the subscriber count jumped, so maybe I should take a break more often. But really helps me out to grow the channel. My goal is to hit 100 before the election. My reach goal would be 500, but help me get there. We build it one at a time. Like and subscribe, share it with somebody else, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.